So what's a relic? What's one look like? Why are you going on this pilgrimage to whatever cathedral? Physical remains. There you go. That's what it is. Usually of a holy site, something that happened, something biblical. Could be something from a martyr, someone, a saint that was killed, or how they were killed. It could be from a priest. We'll see one here in a little bit, or a bishop that was killed. If they performed the proper things, and you could figure that if you could prove that they performed miracles, they can be canonized in sainthood. Mother Teresa is up for sainthood if she hasn't made it already. Pope John Paul, who died just here a few years ago, is up for canonization again. There's a waiting period. It's kind of like the Hall of Fame. I don't mean that in any sort of mean manner, but it is kind of like the Hall of Fame. You have to wait so many years after you die. They have to prove that the church has to prove that there were miracles performed. If they can do that, then you are eligible for sainthood, and there's a voting process and those sorts of things. Well, the reliquaries hold the parts of this holy site or a person. It gives honor to the town. It brings people to the town. It's kind of like having an art exhibition of Monet in your little town. People are going to come to see the Monet artworks in your town. If you have a show of some guy or some girl that no one's ever heard of in your town, as many people aren't going to come to see it. It brings in money, and it brings in commerce and other reasons. Here's a few examples. Chartres Cathedral, supposedly, had the Virgin Mary's tunic from when she gave birth to Jesus. Now, how do you prove that? We're not going to get into all that. Church says that that's what it has. Well, we can go with that. Vézelay has the bones of Mary Magdalene. That's where she is buried. And then St. Lazare has the bones of St. Lazarus. And like I said, that one, Lazarus rose from the dead. He often, the sick and dying would come in and go there and pray to be healed, to be in close proximity to something that is that powerful, that has happened or had happened in according to the Bible. This part I love. Pilgrims earned badges for visiting. Yeah, a little token. It's like a gift shop almost. And churches now have little gift shops. The big ones. Go to St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. They have a gift shop. I've been there. Go to the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. They have a gift shop too. And you can get little badges. You can get little things, little tokens. It might be a magnet. It might be a bumper sticker, unfortunately. But it might be a bumper sticker. It might be a pin. It might be a little Bible, bookmark, something like that. You get a little, and that's not to give any sort of to lessen the pilgrimage process. It's just where it's ended up. It's people try to make money off of everything. Go to Ground Zero in New York City. People make a pilgrimage to go to Ground Zero in New York City. And there's a gift shop there. One of the worst terror attacks on the United States ever. Especially it is the worst on civilian population. And you can buy gewgaws and bookmarks and bumper stickers to commemorate it. So there's this interesting kind of dichotomy, struggle that's going on there between the reason to be there and what you may leave with. Just for example, here's one of the actual badges. This is from Canterbury Cathedral. This is Thomas Becket's. That was his church. That is where he was murdered. And this, it represents his, if you look at his reliquary, it's like a casket. I'll show it to you later. And there's a giant ruby at the top of it, and they would unveil the ruby. And the guy over here on the right-hand side, and the lower right-hand side, is pulling rope to raise the curtain so you could see the whole actual image. And then here's Thomas Becket laying at the bottom of it. They hadn't figured out perspective yet, so here's at the top you have the coffin. He's laying in the coffin, and then in the bottom it represents the windows and the different tracery and stuff. These little clover leaf looking things at the bottom, the tracery in some of the windows. Just a handful of relics, and then we'll be done with this little section here. So this is what's called the Reliquary of the True Cross. 3 guesses of what it has inside of it. Yes, it has splinters from the cross that Christ was crucified on. So they say. We'll go with that. It's made of gold and silver and enameling. It has scenes from Christ's life on different sides of it. So you have like the Annunciation, where the angel of God came and said, "You're to Mary," and said, "You are going to be the mother of the Son of Man." Okay. You have the nativity scene, what we all see at Christmas. You've got the manger and Mary and Joseph and Jesus in the manger. You have the crucifixion, which is the side that you see here, and then you have the descent into limbo on another side. Funny little tidbit, little trivia that goes with this one, is that you can find this one at the Met Museum in New York City. It was a gift of J.P. Morgan. Maybe you've heard of that. J.P. Morgan, as in the investment firm. J.P. Morgan was an actual person. He died mid-century in the 1900s. And you may be like, well, J.P. Morgan, okay, why? Maybe he was an art collector, avid art collector. But he also started a couple little companies. You may have heard of them. One of them was General Electric, as in that General Electric. And U.S. Steel, which is probably one of the largest steel manufacturing corporations in the United States, if not in the world. And if you've never seen anything that has anything to do with U.S. Steel, just go watch the Pittsburgh Steelers play football. That logo on the side of their helmet is the logo for U.S. Steel. Here's one of Mary Magdalene. Do anybody want to guess what's inside of it? It's gold, it's gilded, it's got angels, and you've got a crucifixion scene at the top of it, and you've got different apostles and those sorts of things. Anybody want to guess what's inside of it? Right there in the middle, that nice little kind of round glass thing. If you look right in the middle, you'll see something. It's a tooth. Is it Mary Magdalene's? I don't know. I don't know if they can do DNA on that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure they can't. But it goes down to what a lot of things go down to. It goes down to faith that it is, and that you're praying to the right person, to the right thing, about the right thing. Here's the reliquary casket of St. Thomas Becket that the little token that I showed you before is representing. This is supposed to represent the coffin of St. Thomas Becket. You've got the giant ruby at the top of it. This depicts scenes from his martyrdom. So when he was murdered, for lack of a better term, December 29th, 1170, St. Thomas Becket he had excommunicated 3 bishops and archbishops from the church to kind of get rid of his enemies that were within the church. And this kind of made some people mad within the church. And the king at the time, Henry II, he, as far as oral tradition goes, and it's passed down, we don't have an audio recording of it, but supposedly Henry II is quoted as saying this: Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? When he was talking about St. Thomas Becket, or Thomas Becket at the time. He wasn't a saint yet. Well, there were 4 knights that were Templar knights, Legion knights. They took it a little too seriously, and they went to Canterbury Cathedral, and they decided to challenge Thomas Becket. And when he refused to go with them to ask for forgiveness to the king, they went outside and got their spears and swords and pikes and continued or proceeded to bash his head in. There's a few accounts by some of the monks that were there that were injured but weren't killed in the process, and fairly gruesome scene, supposedly. The priests were getting ready to deliver Vespers service, and he walked into the hallway between where the Vespers are given in the main cathedral sanctuary, and he was hit in the head to where it split his head open and took the top part of his head off, and then he was hit again in the stomach, and he went down to his knees and said a bit of a prayer that was paraphrasing, I have done no wrong, I am prepared to die and meet my maker. And they continued to bash his head in until he fell over dead on the cathedral floor, and then they spread his brains about the cathedral floor just to prove a point. He's buried, this one's kind of fun, he's buried in the eastern crypt of Canterbury Cathedral. He was canonized just a few years after he was killed. And if you go to his crypt, where his tomb is, it's got a giant rock stone on top of it and rock walls on the side of it, but there's 2 holes where the crypt is. And those 2 holes are for the pilgrims, folks that come to pay homage to St. Thomas Becket now and then. And the 2 holes are so you could stick your head into where the tomb is and kiss the casket, just to pay the highest form of regard to him. And then just for a little bit, almost tongue-in-cheek, but true nonetheless. We talked about relics and we talked about reliquaries and that sort of stuff. We all have these things. Those little badges that they give out or gave out to the pilgrims. And I told you to imagine yourself in the year 1100 or the year 1300, and you walked for a month to go pray to Saint Blank to cure your ailment for a miracle. We might not go to these places and look for miracles, but we do go and get inspiration. We do go and feel something a little different, and we want a token. We want a thing, and it may be worthless in some people's eyes, but in others, it may be, in your eyes particularly, it may mean everything. If you happen to lose it, you wonder where it's at and how to get a new one if it gets dingy. And we get these from all over the place. You have folks that do a lot of traveling. You see here on the screen, they go to a bunch of different national parks and that sort of thing, and they get these patches, and then they put them all over the place. You probably see an RV sometime, and they've got stickers from every national park that they've went to. My cousin, not that you need to know his name's Scotty. When we were kids, he had a relic from Mount St. Helens. His parents had gone after the eruption in the 80s, and they brought home a little vial of ash, just as a reminder of all the pain and suffering and destruction. And then, even lower right-hand corner, we talked about Ground Zero and that sort of thing. These are relics that you might bring home. This is at the actual museum. This is somebody's wallet that was found in the rubble after, that horrible day.